I always say, stay off the weed. Well, the day when NFL players don't have to follow that advice may be sooner than later, folks, according to USA Today's Jarrett Bell. Here's the quote. So voters in 7 states last week approved cannabis, either for recreational or medicinal use, and by extension, advanced the argument that the league's ban on it is like something out of the Stone Age. If the NFL wants to be progressive, it can make a strong commitment to funding some of the research being conducted to study the effects of marijuana usage. After all, in pledging to the long-term wellness of its players, benefits could improve the quality of lives. Max?
Yeah.
Is Jarrett Bell right?
You know, yes, he's absolutely right. This is absurd. And we just went through an election where there was a disinformation campaign that wound up successful. That's not okay. It's not okay that you just spread false information and that gets accepted as science in this case, and then we enact laws upon lies. There was a concerted effort to intentionally mislead people, lie to people about the effects of marijuana, which led in its continued prohibition after the prohibition of alcohol was lifted. This has been going on for the better part of 100 years now. That is the idea now that, like, for example, in the state of California, you can play for the Raiders, and it's legal. Marijuana is now recreational use, is legal as it should be in California, if alcohol is legal. And yet the NFL continues to say, we don't care. So now they can't hide behind, well, we're upholding the law. No, you're not. You're upholding your own rules, and those rules are based on the interpretation of the science. So either you're stupid enough not to understand the science when you see it, or you're willfully ignoring it and upholding a crazy, hypocritical double standard. If the standard is alcohol for the NFL, with whom they are in bed, they're in bed with alcohol companies. They peddle it during commercial breaks, okay? If they're sponsored by them, essentially. If you're in bed with the alcoholic beverage companies, you cannot also hold the position that you are testing for weed even if it's legal because it's somehow worse for you, and also say that you have a functioning brain. You cannot say all those things.
Before I get into my point, let me ask you a question, Max, do you believe that weed can make you high?
Yes.
Okay. You have seen people high off weed, have you not?
Yes.
Okay. I'm from Hollis, Queens, New York City. I'm from the streets of New York. Ain't no question I've seen people high. Hell, let me stop lying. You know what I'm saying? I got friends and family members that have no problem getting high. All right, let me...
What you're about to say is going to make me question you right now.
Well, I don't blame you for that, but I've always been a disciplined lad. Let's just say weed wasn't my vice. I had other vices, okay? Let's just leave it at that, okay? My point to you is this. Max Kellerman, the fact of the matter is this. There's a line here that I want to make sure. First of all, I want to make sure we're not talking alcohol. I get your point about that because it is hypocritical on the part of the NFL. I'm not disputing that. I also want to point out that in Jarrett Bell's great column, because he does a great job for USA Today, my man, keep doing your thing, baby. He has a line in here that says, but we're talking about medical marijuana with the key distinction that may make it plausible as a pain management alternative. It does not contain THC, the ingredient that gets a person high. So let me say I'm excluding that. When I say stay off the weed, I am talking about dudes who want to use it for recreational purposes, that don't mind showing up to work high. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about medical marijuana. I'm not talking about pain reduction and assisting in pain tolerance. I'm not talking about medicinal purposes. I'm not talking about all that, nor am I comparing it to alcohol. I'm not going there. I'm talking about the dudes who want to get high.
I like that.
That's what I'm talking about.
Here's where you make a jump here.
Wait. Here's the jump that I'm making. I am saying to you that obviously, because I know this is important to you, Mr. Scientist Spock Kellerman, I have no scientific evidence to back up what I'm about to say.
Clearly.
You can't tell me that 50% of the dudes don't want to just get high.
So what?
Because I'm saying that's a damn problem.
Why? No, because this is the jump you're making.
You want to show... Hold on, no.
Yeah.
You want... Let's call it...
To be in an altered state through life?
Hold on. I am so sick of you with this issue. I want you to sit up here on national television and tell the world what you're saying. You're basically saying you have no problem with somebody showing up to work.
Wait, you won't let me say this point. That's my point. The jump you make is, I'm saying if it's legal in the state of California to use it recreationally, if the standard for a recreational drug is alcohol, then you must not test for weed if you don't test for alcohol. Now, you are jumping from there
I specifically said I understand that.
You are jumping from there to guys showing up to work high. You should not show up to work high. You should also not show up to work drunk. Why is it when you're okay or not okay or whatever it is your position is with alcohol, you don't bring up, hey, if guys are showing up drunk, of course you shouldn't show up drunk or high to work.
Wait a minute. I have been on the record saying I support your position about the hypocrisy of it all in terms of alcohol.
But why do you get to showing up high to work?
We're talking about the issue of weed.
Right.
So I'm saying just say, ignore. Stay with the weed.
I'll stay with
the weed.
My pleasure. If you show up to work high, you have a problem with weed. You can have a problem with prescription drugs, alcohol, weed, various vices or pain medication, etc.
But you know, Max, what's going to happen?
What?
The second you sit up there and permit, you trying to tell me brothers ain't going to be getting zooted and high, going to practice, showing up to a game on a Sunday?
The players who do.
When are you saying it's okay?
Trying to tell me that's not going to happen?
On their own, for pain, tell us, like alcohol is?
Not at work. You shouldn't be.
But that's what I'm saying.
Chemically altered in that way with a psychotropic drug at work. I mean, but how does it follow from recreational use or pain use?
Stephen A. thinks it's going to open Pandora's box.
Here's the bottom line. I don't believe for 1 second, and this is where we may part ways, I don't believe for 1 second that these brothers, and I say brothers, I'm not talking about just black men, I'm talking about black, white, everybody, okay? Yeah. I'm saying these dudes, these dudes that can't stay off the weed. These dudes are doing it now when they got millions of dollars at stake and jeopardizing their livelihood to get to puff, and pass. Excuse me, all of a sudden it's going to be legal and now you're going to discipline yourself? I don't believe it for 1 second.
You say don't go back
way.
You say don't go back to alcohol, but it's impossible to avoid when you make that argument. Alcohol is more addictive than marijuana. But that's not up for debate. So are guys showing up drunk? I guess the answer is yes, but you have no problem with that.
2 seconds ago, you just acknowledged that we weren't going to talk about the alcohol because there's no dispute there. I'm tired of you doing that. There's no dispute. I totally
argue against
if we had an argument about alcohol, I would say the same thing you're saying. So why you keep bringing that up? We're talking about weed.
Because my point is there is a standard set, and that standard should be met. Well, and if the standard is alcohol, I have to use that as the standard.
You're talking about standards and science. I'm saying I don't disagree. I'm saying on the subject of weed, do not allow dudes to show up to work.
I agree. Hey, watch. Let me just be very clear. NFL players, you shouldn't be showing up to work high or drunk or anything like that. That's a bad idea.
But according to you, they have the right to do it because it's no big deal.
We have to go. I wish we had more time. You both make great arguments, but we have to move on.
When we see Max comes in and
I mean, you show up to work on something. What is this nonsense that you're spewing?
Hot tea.
Okay.
Milk and honey.
Hot tea.
Milk and honey.
That's what they should test for.
Milk and honey.
Let's keep it moving, guys. Tom Brady and Carmelo Anthony took some time out of their busy lives to make fun of themselves. Check out these fresh new commercials. We'll get into it next.
I'm a 9-time All-Star.
That's more of a popularity contest.
I have 3 gold medals.
Against, like, Peru.
Starts with questions, and then questions turn into assumptions, and then assumptions turn into vacations. So why would you punish the week of greatness for something that never even happened?
On the Hook is brought to you by Bass Pro Shops. Your adventure starts here.
And he's been asked a lot recently about the Packers, why they've been, well, bad. Rodgers got defensive again yesterday, but this time it was scrutiny over his head coach, Mike McCarthy.
I think it's ridiculous. I think people don't understand how difficult it is to win in this league and win consistently. The success that we've had here, it's tough to do, and we've set the standard pretty high. But I wouldn't listen to some of those people out there. I mean, they're not in this locker room, they're not in the media rooms, they're not in the in the practice environments. They don't know what's going on. They don't know the type of work ethic that we have here and that Mike has here. And
all right, so things obviously not going so hot for Rodgers in the pack right now. And a handful of ESPN insiders graded his season so far, ranging from a C to a B. Max, what would you grade Rodgers' season so far?
Well, anyone who gives him a C or a B is wrong. It's an A-. Rodgers gets an A-.
This is very straightforward.
Hey, smart kids
I want
out
you
there.
as
You
my
know
teacher.
what I'm talking about. I used to sometimes hand in a paper in school, in elementary school, whatever, junior high school, and it would come back a B+. And I would think, come on, that's an A+ paper. well, yeah, great, versus your potential, I'm giving you a bit. No, you don't do that. You grade it compared to everybody else in the class.
Okay.
And compared to everybody else in the class, Aaron Rodgers gets an A-. Compared to his own potential, look, it's Aaron Rodgers in his best season. 14-1 team record, as a starter. QBR of 86, 45 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Okay. That was when he was clearly and by far the best player in football, yes, including Tom Brady, who's the greatest quarterback ever. But at that moment, Aaron Rodgers, the best player in football. He is not that now. So if you want to grade him compared to that version of him, he gets a B+ or something like that. But if you want to grade him compared to everyone else, Stephen A., 22 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 1 game out of first place, a QBR of 72, which is the 6th best QBR in football. Now let's do this scientifically, shall we? A, B, C, D, F. There are 5 categories, okay, and 32 teams, therefore 32 starting quarterbacks. Roughly 6 in each category. So if you are in the top 6, you are in the low end of A. He is a low A quarterback this year. He can't play defense for them, too. Just can't do it. But he's not what he once was, but he is better than most. The only guys better than him this year are all in the MVP conversation. The A's and A+ so far this year. Matt Ryan, Dak Prescott on a per-game basis, Tom Brady, Matt Stafford, those guys are ahead of him. Drew Brees, he's ahead of everybody else.
First of all, you're wrong. Secondly, I would give him a B. Thirdly, you're absolutely right about your point that you're not grading him against his potential, because that would be foolish. But you have every right to grade him against a resume he has already established. That's not potential. That's fact. That's what he has put forth before our very eyes for years and years and years. And by virtue of your sheer concession that he is not what he used to be, that automatically disqualifies him from any kind of A grade, plus, minus, or regular. It doesn't apply. Let's go to the B range. Let's call this what it is. Aaron Rodgers, and I keep getting on you. I can't believe with those eyes you don't use the eye test. You read numbers all the time, and I get that. I just cannot believe you still have not leaned on the eye test. I don't understand. I need
Are you falling in love with me or something?
I need these. You're one person. If you had glasses, something would be wrong. Something would be wrong with this world, okay? You don't need them. But listen, here's the deal. We have seen Aaron Rodgers miss passes. We've seen him overthrow. We've seen him underthrow. Whether it's to Jordy Nelson, it's to Randall Cobb, it's to Devontae Adams, or anybody else. We have seen this man miss throws he has customarily and religiously made for years and years and years. He doesn't appear to be the same. Does that mean he can't go back to being Aaron Rodgers? Of course he can go back to being Aaron Rodgers. We're just talking about what we've seen from him thus far. Last year, year and a half, he hasn't been himself. Last year, we credited it to Jordy Nelson. To a lesser degree, I think it's still Jordy Nelson, because Jordy Nelson, to me, hasn't returned to the Jordy Nelson we once knew and loved before the injury he sustained last year. Now, let's get to why Aaron Rodgers made the statement that he made in defense of Mike McCarthy, which I also think he's wrong about. If there is one thing that annoys me to the end, is when these guys want to bring up how y'all don't understand how hard we work and what work we put in. Damn it, you know that. You know this is about results. Grow up. You know this is about results. It's about what you do on Sundays and Mondays, or in this day and age, Thursdays. Whenever the hell you're playing your games. You're absolutely right. Aaron Rodgers is absolutely right about me and anybody else he wants to categorize in that fashion. We are not covering their practices. We are not there every day. We are not in film room. We don't say, I have no doubt that Mike McCarthy is working his butt off. I think he's a good coach. We're not saying that. What we're saying is the greatness of Aaron Rodgers seems to be being put to waste. Giving up 30 points for the 4th time in the first 9 games, That's your defense. That's not Aaron Rodgers. You're looking at how 71% of the times you're throwing the football, and mind you, it ain't just all about a deficit because you're doing that before halftime as well. They're relying totally on Aaron Rodgers, but they're not getting it done. And I'm looking at Mike McCarthy.
They're 4-5.
Wait a minute.
They're one game out of first place.
Time out.
He doesn't play defense.
Wait a minute. Y'all are acting like somebody is saying, Mike McCarthy, you need to get fired. No. What folks are saying is, excuse me, this guy is one of the greatest ever. You are the head coach. Y'all have not been to the Super Bowl since 2010. It does not mean that you're supposed to get there every year, every other year, whatever. We're saying that the quarterback position is so important that if you can go 6 years without this dude, there are several coaches that some of us might look at and say, if they had Aaron Rodgers, it would be a different result. That's the price you pay. That's the price you pay when you have somebody that great. Why y'all acting like y'all don't know this?
That may be a GM issue, not a coach issue. But I want to get back to Aaron Rodgers because the question is, what grade do you give him? And you fell right into it. You started comparing him to a standard of perfection.
I started comparing him to a standard he established.
Right.
He established.
Compared to his own standard.
I don't care who you are.
Compared to the other quarterbacks.
No. 4-5.
I have a right to do that. I have a right to do that. I have a right to look at Aaron Rodgers. And if you have a right to say that Tom Brady is going to fall off a cliff in 16, 14, 12 months from now, I have a right to sit there and look at Aaron Rodgers and say,
your right to be wrong.
I'm saying, Aaron Rodgers, these are the standards you have set. Has age, attrition kicked in? Are you not what you used to be?
Compared to the best version of himself, he's something less than an A. But if the question is, what grade do you give Aaron Rodgers and all the other quarterbacks this year, that means you're comparing them to each other. A minus.
I can't give someone an A that's 4-5, third in their division.
No. I am not only that. I am not going to ignore the greatness not only that I saw from Aaron Rodgers throughout all of these years, but what I have come and grown to expect. The fact is that ain't what we're getting. And you're looking at the problems around him, and you're saying, McCarthy, guys, help him out.
This happens in boxing sometimes. In boxing, one fighter's winning every round decisively. The other fighter starts to do better. So relative improvement gives the fighter the round. It's like if Stephen A comes closer in a debate, people think he won the debate because I'm usually winning by such a wide margin. It's not fair to compare someone to themselves.
All I know is I wish you guys were my teachers because you're generous trainers. Speaking of drugs, coming up after the break, another day and another person taking shots at the NFL. Soon it might be hits from NFL players. You'll understand later. Also, if you like Bad Santa, you are in luck because there is a Bad Santa 2, folks, and Billy Bob Thornton. He's here to preview it all.
Will you be